What's going on, guys? It's your boy Big Hero Chris back at you with another one. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, give me a thumbs up, ring the notification bell, hit me up on Twitter, TikTok, the community posts. You already know the vibes. And let me ask you guys a question. So have you ever heard anything or have anybody told you anything, like any form of information, and when you were done hearing the information, you ever think to yourself, I really could have went my entire life without hearing that? That's how I feel after, this whole Pat McAfee Rock interview, because The Rock went on the Pat McAfee show after WrestleMania and pretty much explained, how the creative process behind the Cody John Cena Rock situation, why The Rock wasn't at WrestleMania. And after hearing his explanation, I'm like, man, I didn't need to know all this. I could have just been perfectly fine without knowing any of this. So to put this in full context, The Rock pretty much said that the reason he was at Elimination Chamber, it wasn't because there was a storyline reason for it. The real reason why he was at Elimination Chamber is because I think he said Nick Khan called up The Rock and said, hey, ticket sales for Elimination Chamber aren't going too well. Is there any way you can show up and help out a little bit, help boost ticket sales? And The Rock said yeah. So in doing so, they came up with the concept of Cody's soul and trying to turn Cody heel, and it looked like that's what The Rock wanted. The Rock wanted to turn Cody heel, and they ended up going the route of turning John Cena heel. It was like Triple H came up with the idea of turning Cena heel. He's like, yeah. And The Rock was like, yeah, that's cool. Let's talk to John about it. And the rest is history. And then this led to the whole WrestleMania thing. And if you watched WrestleMania, you saw how WrestleMania went with the main event match between John Cena and Cody Rhodes. And Travis Scott pulled up. And the whole time you're thinking, all right, so The Rock's got to show up, right? He's got to pull up. And nah, he didn't, because The Rock felt that in doing so, his presence would take away from John Cena's 17th title win, him breaking Ric Flair's record. He felt like that would take away from it. And to put this in full context, like to put this whole situation in full, complete, total context, we got to rewind the clocks back one full calendar year. Now, this time last year, what were we doing? We were watching Cody Rhodes finish the story. He beat Roman Reigns. He became the WWE champion. The night after WrestleMania, on Monday Night Raw, Cody came out. He was celebrating. And then The Rock comes out. And then they have this awkward promo segment in which, The Rock and Cody Rhodes exchanged championship belts. And that whole situation was weird. And it ended with The Rock saying, well, The Rock has to go now. The final boss has to go away for a little bit. But just because your story finished with Roman Reigns, Cody, our story is just beginning. So you're thinking, okay, what does that mean? So the whole time with that, you think, oh, okay, so this is probably going to lead to Cody versus The Rock in the future, right? So we fast forward a few months. We haven't heard anything from The Rock. Cody's doing his thing as WWE champion. And we get to Bad Blood. And the main event of that show was the Bloodline, Solo Sikoa's Bloodline, taking on the team of Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, right? And that match ended with Cody and Roman winning with the help of Jimmy Uso. Jimmy and Roman end up helping Cody. And as the show was getting ready to end, out comes The Rock. And you're like, oh, snap, what's going to happen now? And The Rock comes out and he looks at all three of these men in the ring. And he holds up three fingers and he does the throat slash motion. And he walks away. And there's several conspiracy theories as to what that could have meant. A lot of people were saying he's, advertising Moana 3. Some people were saying he was just counting down to his music. Me personally, I always thought that The Rock saw his family, his cousins, Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso, standing in the same ring helping out his number one enemy in Cody Rhodes. So I figured The Rock saw them as all of them as the ops, and it's over for all three of them. I'm like, okay, bet. And then we didn't see The Rock for months and months and months until the Netflix premiere on January 6th, Monday Night Raw on Netflix. You see The Rock come out, and he's not really acting like the final boss. He's more acting like, you know, TKO member Dwayne Johnson. You know, he's bigging up the board members. He's bigging up Netflix, Netflix executives. And then in a completely uncharacteristic, you know, thing he did was hype up Cody Rhodes and talk about how great of a champion he was and what a great job he's been doing. And everyone that's been following this whole Rock Cody Rhodes story was like, okay, what is going on? Why is The Rock doing this? Why is he acting like this? Why is he being all buddy with Cody Rhodes? What's going on? And another thing that happened on that same episode of Monday Night Raw was the whole tribal combat between Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. So at this point, you're thinking, okay, that was a wash, but you're thinking at least The Rock's going to show up and interfere in some way, shape, or form in this Solo Sikoa Roman Reigns match. And that didn't happen. What ended up happening was Roman Reigns ended up winning. He's the tribal chief again. And as Roman is celebrating with the bloodline, The Rock comes out and you're thinking, okay, here we go. And then nothing happens. You know, they hug. The Rock presents Roman Reigns with the Uno Fowler. And that's it. And you're like, what is going on? Like, why isn't there anything going on with this story between The Rock and Cody and The Rock and Roman? Like, what is really going on? And then on top of that, to make matters worse, you see The Rock, you know, drinking tequila with Cody Rhodes after the show on social media. So then the next night, The Rock shows up on NXT, and he's pretty much trying to do damage control. He's pretty much saying like, "Oh, well, why is The Rock being nice to Cody? They're mad about The Rock being mean to Cody. Now they're mad about The Rock being nice to Cody." Like, and pretty much The Rock was saying like, "Listen, this is a long story. You know, just enjoy the ride The Rock's taking you on." And as it turns out, there was no ride, you know, right? It's pretty much you're just driving around with no destination. That's pretty much the ride that The Rock is taking you on. And don't get it twisted, man. The Rock is my favorite all-time wrestler. I've said this many, many times on this channel. The Rock is my all-time favorite wrestler. He is the reason I am a wrestling fan and has been a wrestling fan for over 20 years. It's not nothing against The Rock. But when you're saying enjoy the ride that we're taking you on, just, you know, enjoy what we're doing, and then it's revealed that you don't really have a plan as to what you're doing, because like I said, you haven't, like, ever since the January 6th episode of Raw, you didn't see The Rock until it was time for Elimination Chamber. And then on top of that, The Rock reveals that he was only there to, you know, boost ticket sales. It wasn't as part of a story. They kind of just said, all right, wouldn't it be cool if we did this, and this? But there was no set plan as to, all right, at Elimination Chamber, I'm going to return. I'm going to proposition Cody to be a heel. He's going to reject me. Then that's going to lead to a John Cena heel turn. This came out as they're going along. Like, there's no actual long-term plan as to why any of this is happening. And this is one of the things where it's like, man, there was a lot of speculation as to, like, man, The Rock just shows up and does whatever. But now to actually hear that's really what happened, it's kind of like, man, I really could have gone my entire life without hearing this, right? And a lot of people are speculating that there's some type of beef between Triple H and The Rock as far as creative goes, as far as, you know, The Rock wanted to do this, and Triple H saying, no, we're not doing that, we're going to do this. And maybe that's why The Rock dipped out. He's saying it's due to, like, other obligations he has, and which makes sense, because, you know, The Rock is one of the most highest paid actors in Hollywood. And on top of all that, Dave Meltzer reported months ago that The Rock was going to be at WrestleMania anyway due to the Moana reshoots. And a lot of people were kind of like co-signing that, but a lot of people were dunking on Dave Meltzer because it's Dave Meltzer and he fucks up a lot. So it's understandable on both sides. So from my point of view, from my perspective, I wasn't really expecting The Rock to show up at WrestleMania. It was one of those things where it was like, okay, it would be cool if he did, but if he doesn't, I understand why. It would have really, really helped the finish if he did, but I understand it. Me personally, seeing how this whole thing plays out, or how this whole heel turn with John Cena played out, if this was going to be the play from jump, I feel like you should have just had John Cena turn heel at WrestleMania. Like, that would be the moment, you know. You have John Cena just moving different from Elimination Chamber to WrestleMania. It's like he's still coming out and being John Cena, but it's kind of like you're kind of acting different. Like, you can, and on top of that, you feel the desperation from John Cena, which even furthers the storyline, which justifies the heel turn. And then he can go off and be like, yo, you guys all suck, you're horrible people, you're horrible fans, you've been horrible to me for all these years, blah 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 blah. And then he can go into the whole, you know, countdown, like, you only have this amount of time until I'm gone, and something like that. because the whole heel turn with the Elimination Chamber and The Rock, and for whatever reason Travis Scott, you're expecting The Rock to show up. And the whole thing about The Rock saying, well, I didn't want to show up because I felt like it would take attention away from John Cena's heel turn, or John Cena winning his 17th title. Bro, like, you've already done that in this interview. Because, like, when John Cena turned heel, and he was standing in the same ring with The Rock. The Rock being there didn't take away from the heel turn. You know, the focus was still John Cena. And I feel like if The Rock would have showed up at WrestleMania and helped out John Cena to win, that still wouldn't have taken away from John Cena winning the 17th championship, because that moment is still going to be there. What's ended up taking away from that moment is The Rock doing this interview with Pat McAfee and, you know, showing us how the sausage is made and all this and this, that, and the third, man. And a lot of people are very disappointed. I'm just like throwing up my hands at this point, because it's like, bro, again, I didn't need to know this information. So I just want to get that little, you know, do a little reaction and get this whole thing off my chest and, you know, get my feelings out there. But I want to hear what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below. What do you think about The Rock's revelation as to why he didn't show up at WrestleMania and this whole situation, man? Let me know in the comment section below. Of course, always like, comment, and subscribe. You guys take care, bees. I'm out. Peace.